Sex history matters. I just heard a true life story on an adult TikTok account that leaves me dumbfounded. A true life story that is still happening as I type these words. Guys, things are happening in this world, in Nigeria. Things that would make you think you are watching a movie, except that they are real. I think it has become extremely important to ask and know people's sex history and habits before deciding to marry them, whether man or woman. I mean every word of that. Anyone who thinks otherwise might just be your enemy and should be treated as such. There are married people today who secretly love twosomes, threesomes or foursomes, but they are too scared to tell their partners. They are addicted and unhappy in their marriage. They end up living a double life. There are married people today who are homosexuals. They've been queer long before they got married. Now they are married but miserable and unhappy, living with a sexual orientation that is hidden from their partner. They continue to live a double life. There are married people today who are sexually attracted only to minors, underage boys and girls. But their partners do not know and they continue to live a double life. They stay married because of society and status, but behind the scenes they continue to have threesomes, continue to sleep with same-sex and continue to sleep with minors. This is how they stay happy and maintain their sanity, otherwise they might go crazy. So why would anyone at this point argue that knowing your potential partner's sex history is unnecessary? They cannot. Before you met that handsome man or pretty woman, they had a history, good, bad and ugly. They didn't jump out of their mother's wombs into your bed. They were not born holy just as you weren't. So probing to know if they had any fetishes or sexual fantasies before they fell in love with you is not out of place. It is mandatory even. If you knew what is going on in this world behind the scenes, when the lights are off and when the curtains are closed, you would not take this post lightly. You'd see the value in talking about your partner's sex history or sex fantasies. Some want to talk but don't know how to initiate the conversation. I couldn't sleep since I heard the story early this morning from the woman's mouth. She is Yoruba. Her first sexual experience was a rape. Her 4 male friends raped her. She said this experience made it difficult for her to enjoy sex with just one guy afterwards. It wouldn't be enjoyable, she said. 3 out of the 4 guys entered into a covenant with her to continue to have group sex with her and she agreed to it. So 2 guys would take her together at once while the remaining one would watch and take his turn later. So she became addicted to having sex with at least 2 guys at once. Soon, as time passed, they grew older, went their separate ways and lost contact for a while. And then she met another guy from the east to whom she suggested the idea and he also confessed to liking threesomes. He brought his friend and they both had sex with her. She said one of the 3 guys later contacted her from Germany and said he wanted to marry her. She declined because she felt the other 2 might still want her sexually. So she introduced her friend to him as consolation and he married her. After a while he said he wasn't happy in his marriage and he wanted them to continue their sexual adventure. Gangbanging. She soon reconnected with them in Germany. One of them who was also married came from Canada to join them, making 3 of them, and they had their threesome. When she decided to marry and she told the men about it, they begged her to continue seeing them so that their adventure could continue. They promised to give her everything she wanted and she lacked nothing from them. Now she is married with 4 kids and she still sees these men for sex. She claims that the kids belong to her husband. She is confident but she doesn't enjoy sex with him. The only time she enjoys sex is when she sleeps with at least 2 men. Talk about a complete emotional and psychological damage. By the way, I consider her husband to be the most unfortunate man and most endangered husband in the world at this point. And guess what, guys? This woman actually knew she had problems. She believed she needed spiritual deliverance and went to see a pastor. She met the shock of her life. The pastor she ran to for deliverance told her she was not in spiritual bondage. The pastor said he too secretly enjoys threesomes and offered to have it with her. She was shocked, depressed and hopeless because the Messiah she had run to also needed help. She said she quickly left his chambers because if she had stayed longer she would have had sex with him there and then. She said the 3 guys are now trying to convince her to divorce her husband so that their cult-like sex bond can continue. They promised to help her get rid of him. They promised not to kill him. She said she has been begging them not to hurt him because of their kids. As she narrated her story, a part of me gave up on humanity. I told myself that I don't know humans anymore. Humans are capable of anything. Your imaginations cannot comprehend what humans can do. Don't even try to imagine it. And I think sex is highly underrated. People can literally do anything to satisfy their sexual fantasies as long as they derive happiness from it. Happiness in its subjective sense. But on a deeper level, I think there is something spiritual or diabolic going on amongst these men and one woman. This is not ordinary, and anyone who thinks it is must be incredibly naive. And I think it was triggered by that first rape. The bottom line is this: know your partner's sex history. It matters a lot. Many fine faces you see are going about with crazy sex issues and fetishes. If you judged by their appearance, you would never know. I am 100% certain that if you and I saw the woman and men in this story in public, we would never suspect that they are this messed up. Clothes cover a lot of dirt. Someone dropped a comment that threesomes can be addictive once a person has a taste of it. I would go ahead to say that it can only be addictive to men if it involves one man and 2 or 3 women. I don't see a situation where any normal man, emphasis on normal, would be addicted to sharing a woman with 2 or 3 naked men in an orgy. You only see that in X-rated movies and they do not prove addiction. It's just make-believe. On the contrary, I can see how a woman would be addicted to sharing one man in bed with 2 or 3 other naked women. Men by nature are territorial sexual predators and protective of the woman they desire sexually. That means we don't like to share women with other men. It's just not in our nature or biology. Any man who feels comfortable doing so is a psychopath and a sick pervert. The kind of man who derives pleasure from seeing he and other men gangbanging a woman has serious psychological or even spiritual issues. He is not normal because men typically cannot stand such a sight of other naked men manhandling the woman he sexually desires without dying of jealousy and rage. Jealousy is built into the territorial instinct. So I don't want to hear that men are addicted to sex where 2 or 3 guys manhandle one naked woman. It's a myth. Such creatures cannot be men.